when the Union of States were about to be formed, Dr. Ambedkar proposed dual electorate rights for the Dalits, but in the second roundtable conference, but Gandhiji strongly opposed that statement to the Ambedkar, and he started protest. Why, ma'am?
Actually, basically, the point which I had just about touched, Gandhi's and Ambedkar's stands on the untouchable questions were very different. Gandhi was himself a staunch Hindu. He was not willing to challenge the Hindu social structure. From a humane point of angle of vision, perhaps, or probably, Gandhi was opposed to untouchability. But there again, I would say Gandhi's opposition to untouchability, expressly that it came out as a movement, was after the Pune Pact. Gandhi was not willing to concede separate electorates for the untouchable castes, for which he undertook a fast unto death to stop Ambedkar from sticking to his stand. At that point of time, Ambedkar was under enormous pressure from different quarters to give up his stand. And that compromise on the part of Ambedkar, or that shift in position on the part of Ambedkar, is marked by the 1932 Pune Pact. Because Ambedkar felt that if Gandhi, an old man, Gandhi was an old man compared to Ambedkar, if Gandhi died as a result of his fast unto death, the burden of the entire situation on Ambedkar would be enormous. It was just not desirable. So Ambedkar gave up that stand, his insistence, and the compromise which had emerged at that time was reserved seats, but not separate electorates. That was the compromise which had emerged. Gandhi, logically, as I said, his anti-untouchability movement mostly develops after 1932. So it was a sort of counter to Ambedkar's growing popularity, because this pressure that Ambedkar was subject to because of Gandhi's fast was not well received by many people, including people within the Congress. They were also critical. It was a sort of emotional blackmail that was taking place to make Ambedkar shift from his position. And while Ambedkar believed the caste system had to go totally, and at a point of time later, as I said, he believed without moving out from Hinduism this would not be possible. He was for a total rejection of caste. Gandhi, on his part, had an ambiguous position regarding caste, and he was an outright supporter of the Varna system. He was not willing to give up the Varna system. Regarding caste, he had an ambiguous position. Regarding untouchability, Gandhi considered it undesirable, but his movement really comes after Ambedkar. His popularity amongst the untouchable castes has been increasing, and he is emerging as a prominent figure in the untouchability movement. That was a situation where, because this was a challenge for Gandhi, in the sense the Indian National Congress and Gandhi were seeking to project themselves as representatives of the entire Indian population in the nationalist movement. The moment this was happening on the one side, Ambedkar is coming up. Ambedkar is coming into the scene to challenge this position that Gandhi and the Indian National Congress they are not representing the interests of the untouchable castes. So this, what should I say, support base that Gandhi was assuming for himself, that Congress was assuming for itself, was being challenged actually from two angles. One challenge was coming from the side of the Muslim League, coming from the side of Jinnah. The other challenge, big challenge really, was coming from the side of Ambedkar. And to counter that, also, I would say, that was one of the compulsions why Gandhi took up the untouchability movement so seriously after the 30s. That's my position. Yes.
Like a question related to Ambedkar and Buddhism. Like we all know about the great movement of Ambedkar converting himself to Buddhism, and he radicalized, he mobilized, if not a large, a reasonable amount of people to convert themselves as Buddhists. Like if they had practiced the Buddhism properly, Buddhism would have been one of the dominant voice of India. But somewhere or the other, that particular thing got saturated. Like where it went wrong?
The spread of Buddhism really, Ambedkar's conversion, it led to an emergence of another form of Buddhism in a new pattern, we can say, Navayana Buddhism. The trouble there was non-Ambedkarite Buddhists, those who were Buddhists earlier, the Navayana Buddhists were not really accepted on equal terms, again, amongst the Buddhists in general. That's one problem. Another basic problem is that this movement spread substantially amongst the Mahars, to an extent amongst the Chamars, to a less extent amongst certain Dalit communities in Bengal also, you will find, but to a very less extent. And the point is that Dalits have not, the reasons are multiple, Dalits have not in India come under any single platform. They are totally rejecting Hinduism has appeared to be too radical for some. They have tried to, many Dalit communities and groups have tried to carve out a space for themselves without a total rejection of Hinduism, something which I was trying to point out, the village gods, or the Vaishnava sects, the Shohojiya Vaishnava sects. They don't totally reject Hinduism, but it's a sort of egalitarian garb that Hinduism has for them. And it's a different Hinduism that they, you can call them obscure sects. You can refer to them as obscure sects within Hinduism amongst the low caste groups who believe in a measure of equality, social justice, etc., but who are not accepted by mainstream, who are not part of the mainstream Hindu ethos. So many go there without having that feeling that we've given up Hinduism. A section has gone to Islam. The conversions to the Muslim population, a big section of the conversions have come from amongst the low castes. A section has moved to Christianity. A section has gone to certain other religious groups, such as the Kabir Panth, as I was saying. So just as politically, Dalits have not come under a single political umbrella. Why? The reasons are many. But the fact is, Ambedkar had tried, but it did not work. Subsequently, it has not worked. The reasons, that's an elaborate discussion we could go into and debate it, but that has not happened. Similarly, when it comes to religion, there is a resistance to giving up the religion in which I'm born, despite all the insults and everything. Periodically, there is an appeal right now there is that appeal also you will find in many places that when it comes to beating up the minorities, you are a Hindu. All Dalits would be then appealed to on the basis of their Hindu identity. So stand together with the Hindus. It is needed to beat the minorities. It is needed to beat the minorities. Once the minorities have been put in place, beaten up as required, then again the social stratification in Hindu society becomes loud. You are untouchables in Hindu society. Then your Hindu identity is not primary. Your Dalit identity becomes primary. So all these power games go on. So all this accounts for the difficulty of Buddhism, Navayana Buddhism really expanding, but Navayana Buddhism, as a result of Navayana Buddhism, the Buddhist population in India surely increased. They did bring in radicalism, a radical element of thought in Buddhism. It became more of a social movement. And as I said, we can look at it clearly as a step in this development of an alternative culture. Had Ambedkar not passed away so soon after the conversion movement, I guess we would have had greater contributions from his side along these lines of developing an alternative culture. But from here, I would say, we need to pick up on Periyar's ideas. It tangentially takes a different course. It rests largely on this tradition that has been built up. It takes a different course and probably gives a much wider space and a more rational space for the creation of an alternative culture, a more structured frame of an alternative culture. That's what I felt.
உன் கடவுளை விட உன் சாஸ்திரத்தை விட உன் முன்னோரை விட உன் வெங்காயம் வழக்கமாத்தை விட உன் அறிவு பெருசு அதை சிந்தி